Good afternoon. I want to get on here. I just got another update that came out of New Mexico. I have a friend down there, and so I've been, in talks with him and kind of watching what's happening there. Just because I find it really interesting. I find that this lady, the governor there, is very much like our governor here. And so I'll let people jump in here. So if you guys can hear this, please let me know. I want to do kind of an update about New Mexico because there's some really important takeaways. Also, I want to talk about the meetup. I just posted a link there for people to join us over there in Harney County, and so I want to talk about this. So if you guys can hear this, please let me know. That's how we get this out. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys are having a good day. And so let's jump in. And so where we're at is there's a TRO that was just granted. It's actually, well, I was surprised. It was actually one of Biden's federal court appointees, and they just put a temporary restraining order in place that was going to prevent, the lawlessness of that governor from going into effect. And so that's really good news. And so yeah, stuck in traffic. Sorry. I'm glad you guys are here though. And so I just want to kind of touch base about really, really important stuff is if we're looking at the house of cards when it comes to gun control, they shouldn't, this was a very, very bold move. This lady knew that this was unconstitutional the way she did it. Her emergency order, the more I read today, it was illegal because she was supposed to have two signatures on that emergency order. One of the signatures was actually supposed to be from a guy that was ran out of Oregon. And so I found that kind of interesting. And so, basically they were swinging for the fences here, hoping that they can get something to stick because of her personal opinion. She's been on the record as a rabid anti-gunner. She's gotten a lot of money from Moms Demand Action Everytown. And so this is, I kind of look at it from an optics standpoint. She was basically trying out for another position once she was done with being the governor. And so what she would probably do is step into a role, either running for president as a pro or a pro or a anti-freedom candidate, right? And they always call it a gun sense candidate. That's what they call it, but it's really a anti-freedom candidate. Or she would step into a role with one of these big orgs and make, 6+ figures a year. And so we can look at that as maybe that was why she did this. And obviously she used fear and emotion to drive policy. Obviously she violated the rights of all of her citizens, right? And luckily they stood up and they said, no, that's not going to happen. And so this should be a lesson to all of us here in Oregon, right? Is you should look at, they stood up and they pushed back. And this was so unpopular. I saw David Hogg. David Hogg was coming out against this law. So that's how unpopular and how bad this was for them, the other side, and the people that are trying to take away your rights and take away your guns. Okay. I didn't see anybody in Oregon coming out in support of this. I didn't see Lift Every Voice. I didn't see any other anti-gun groups coming out and saying, cheering this on, like this is the way to go. Cause they knew this thing would never, ever go into effect. And so what had happened is now there's a TRO that's in effect. And what that does is that basically similar like what we're dealing here with Oregon is it prevents this from going into effect. Okay. So this is dated until October 3rd. There's a TRO in place, which is good for them, right? It basically stops everything until they can get more time and space and figure out, the next move. Obviously this is already against her state constitution. It says very clearly, like our Oregon constitution, that the citizens there have the right to keep and bear arms. And she didn't care about that. She didn't care about the Second Amendment. And so that's what being, blind with power, that's what that looks like. And that's tyranny. And that's where we're at. So we're very, very lucky that that happened because that set a pretty good example of what they're going to try to do, right? She was very, very bold and she swung for the fences, but this is their move. They don't care about the Constitution. So we have to understand that here. And so that's why it's really, really important is we stay up to date with what's happening here. So transitioning to Measure 114. So there has been a lot of stuff going on. There's been pretrial motions, all the stuff that's happening. And I've been in contact. And so one thing I want us to all keep on our radar, and I don't want, obviously what's happening in New Mexico is a big overreach. It's something that is definitely, we don't want to see that happen to our fellow countrymen, right? Excuse me, frog in my throat. And that being said, is we don't want to lose sight of what's happening here, right? And so there's been a lot of posts in the group, which I feel that they're noted. I'm gonna try to slow them down now when it comes to New Mexico, because I want to get back on task. And what I mean by getting back on task is we have a really important court date on Monday, and I want us to figure out a way to get this information out into our streams, right? Our neighbors, our coworkers, right? And so some of the advice that I got today from our attorney is there was an article that came out today. I shared it already, and it's from Fox News, and which take it with what it is, And so, but the point is to blast that out, right? And so we're talking about put this in the people's faces of our neighbors, our coworkers, so they know what's going on, right? And they kind of know what we're up against. They might not be in this group, but they might be gun owners, right? And so the whole point is keeping this in front of people's faces so they stay engaged, they stay up to date, and they follow along. They understand what's at stake, and so, worst case scenario, something, if it goes south, all gun sales could come to a halt. And so that's something we have to be mindful of, and we have to make sure that we are paying attention to what's happening. Don't get lost in what's happening across the country, because we have a really important battle here in Oregon. And so, I was asked to kind of bring that up. And so, I'll put that link back in this video if you guys can see this video. You guys are pretty quiet. And so I don't know if you guys are watching or listening in, but whatever. I appreciate you guys being here and trusting me and being a part of this process. And so that being said, I think it's just, we're going to have to make sure that we keep this, because a lot of people that have checked out. I mean, it's been a long year, and it's been, this process has gone over a year now, from the part was the ballot initiative all the way to, getting on the ballot, and also, becoming law, or quote unquote getting passed. I wouldn't say becoming law, because technically it hasn't become law yet because of RTRO. And that's the way I view it. Of course, I'm not an attorney. Other people might view it that way, but I Lift Our Voice always calls the law. But the fact of the matter is, I can still have a 17-round magazine on my person. I can still go buy a firearm with showing my CHL or my driver's license. So in my opinion, the law hasn't gone into effect. And so, that's where I'm at here, is making sure that we are all on the same page when it comes to fighting forward, because it's time to clock back in. And so that's why I did put in an event, and I not everybody can make it there on Monday. And so, but I did open it up for people. I put it in other groups. There's another group I've been part of. I've been dropping information in there as well. It's not as well received there because they don't know me, and and they're kind of, I haven't built rapport with them yet like I've built with you guys. And I'm so thankful that you guys believe in me and support me with this situation. And so it'll come with time, and so, that's kind of where we're at. And, Robert, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the support. And, I think we're all patriots, right? And we're all in this together. And so, this is our fight, and, this is a fight that hopefully we can win, because, we're on the right side of the law here. We're on the right side of the Constitution. And so, that being said is, we have that trial is going to start. I did in the body of that event, I did post the schedule that came straight from the website, the Harney County Circuit Court website. There will be, I did see there's going to be an option for a live stream. And so once I have that all locked in, it'll probably be Monday morning before I get that. I'm going to be there. And so if you guys are there, I'd love to see you guys, meet you guys, and go in there and support our attorney and make a face or make our faces known to the judge, and obviously in a respectful manner, obviously, but let them know that we care enough that we took we took out time out of our days. We, either we missed work or we traveled across the state, and we're here because this is an issue that's really, really important to us. And so while we might not have our voices be heard in this situation because we're not testifying or anything along those lines, us just being there in presence is going to say a lot. And so that's where I'm trying to make sure that I motivate people that are there locally, that if they can do it, like, that would be great to see you on Monday morning. And I think it's scheduled for 3.5 days. I can only be there Tuesday, and then I have to come back Tuesday night. And so that, because I'm flying to Arizona later on. And so I'm on, like, starting Friday, I'm on the road for 10 days straight. And so I'm just trying to make sure that I keep everything going in front of me and all this stuff. And so it's just a lot. But it's something that, like, it's part of the deal. And so I'm glad to have you guys here with me, and I'm glad you guys support me and believe in me. That means a lot. And so I'm like, I make mistakes. Like, there's things that I say, and sometimes things are, I don't explain them because of the way information comes to me so fast. And sometimes, I put out stuff that, I think a prime example is the 9/11 thing the other day, right? It's something that resonated so strongly with me that I wanted to put out because I knew it would resonate with you, my patriots. And so, that's where I wanted, and then I had people that were saying it was not true. And then I started doing deep digging, and then I found out that it was from, it wasn't from law enforcement, but it was something that was released by the FBI. And so, it's just, thank you for giving me grace. I try not to mislead. I try to give you the best information I can, but I am human. I do make mistakes. And so, I don't have an ego. Like, if there's something I missed out and I got it wrong, I have no problem owning it, because I'm not here because my opinion is not the only opinion, right? I just try to present the opinion of mine in a way that it resonates with all of you. And so that's the only thing I can be, sure of is I will fix it if it's not right. That's what I'll give you my word. So let's talk about this. And so there's confusion here. And so, obviously, the ruling that we got, last week, and it said that, basically they're not going to rule, like, they're basically breaking off bits and pieces of what they're going to bring in and as official testimony, which is good for us, right? There was stuff in the federal trial that we had, we had a lady that lost two parents at Clackamas Town, right? And we had a doctor that dealt with gunshot wounds, right? And this is presented as official evidence in federal court. And luckily we were able to get that struck down, because this is not factual information. This is emotional based information. And so there's been a lot of going back and forth, and I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not my place to say, but just know this is we're getting this closer to what we're going to be talking about when it comes to Measure 114. And so we're talking about what happens if all is lost. Okay. So in my opinion, I'm not an attorney, I just play one here on Facebook for you guys, is we have a couple things that are going here. And so we have the magazine capacity issue, right? One of the issues that we have here is the detachable base plates. Okay. This is something that we have to make sure that we understand the true implementation problem here, because it makes every magazine, for the most part in the state of Oregon, illegal, right? It makes all of us a Class A misdemeanor. And so, that's something, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. This is just me speaking. And so the magazine capacity could be an issue. Also the TRO, if this thing gets lifted because there's some magical way for us to be able to get these permit to purchase, that's going to be a problem for us, because that they could prove that they had the thing ready to go. And so the whole point of that ruling the other day was, it wasn't talking about whether it's possible. It was talking about whether this is constitutional under the Oregon State Constitution, Section 1, Article 27. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. And so this is going to be an up or down vote, I believe. I don't know if it's a facial challenge. There's a lot of stuff I'm just not asking because I don't want to take away the time that they're prepping for this trial, right? So all I'm trying to do is show support by making sure you guys have the best information so you guys can know where we're at. And I'll do updates as best I can throughout the day when I'm over there. There will be a live stream so you guys can watch this. The bummer about the live stream is you don't see the whole court. You don't see, you don't see the reaction of the crowd. You don't see, body language. You don't see mannerisms of the judge, so that is the benefit of being inside the building, inside that room. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So, that's, something I enjoy being there in person because I like taking notes. I like being able to get the information as pure as I can from you guys so I can give it to you, get it from the judge or whatever's going on inside the court. I find this a lot of fun, actually. And it's just, it helps me get better at what I'm trying to do. And so this right here, I can't tell you how to behave, right? I know what the law says. I know what the penalties are for that. And I know how I'm going to live my life. And so until we figure out what is an acceptable form of restriction, they're going to continue to restrict, right? And we're seeing this, a prime example in live form in New Mexico, right? Where they said no. And, what are they doing is they've actually unified the state because there's Democrats that are coming out saying no. They have the attorney general that said, no, we're not going to be, they had law enforcement that said no, and so that gives me hope. And this is something where I'm hoping that this could be a wake up call for all of us and just know that the best way for us to be able to defend our rights, to be able to stand up and say no. And if you guys are familiar with FPC and their position on no, I feel very similar. I just don't broadcast it here just because I'm trying to be professional. And so, but it's more of a F you no. That's kind of how I feel. And so at the end of the day, none of this is going to do anything to save lives. All this is going to do is turn you into a potential criminal. And I'm definitely not going to bring 7 rounds to a 30-round gunfight, or depending on that threat, and so that's something that I feel good enough about my position where I know how I'm going to lean in this situation. And so make that same decision in your own lives. Obviously I can't tell you how to behave, and I'm not going to publicize how I'm behave, but I'm going to behave the way my founding fathers intended, because I understand what those 27 words, right, what they meant. And they said it shall not be infringed for a reason. And so, that's where we have to understand, what this is, and what it is unconstitutional. And so we're hoping that we get a judge that says it's unconstitutional. And that's our goal, and so the sheriffs, let's talk about this one, right? So how many sheriffs are on board and willing to go public? So a lot of the sheriffs on the east side of the state, it's really, really important is they know what's at stake, because they know they don't have the manpower. They don't have the resources to do any of this. And they're definitely not going to be, and I don't want to put words in their mouths, but from what I've seen the last couple of days from the sheriffs I interact with that are in Eastern Oregon, like they're on our side, they're our friends. And so, those are law enforcement officers that we have to support, and they're elected officials. They're, elected by constituents. And if they're, standing up for the constituents, they should earn the vote to make sure they stay in office. And that's kind of where we're at. Obviously we're looking at the more urban counties like Multnomah, Washington County. Those are politicians. And so that's dangerous for people that live in those areas, because that's the chief law enforcement of that area. And if you live in their county, they're going to have a different position when it comes to this stuff, because it's a political position. That's why. And so, yeah, that's one of our problems. There's absolutely professionalism above all else, and that's the biggest thing. And when we're going up and we're showing up in court on Monday is obviously, show up business casual, and show up normalize gun ownership. And that was been my biggest push is, as Oregon gun owners, we're such a diverse set of people, and we're not like, we don't fit in little boxes. There's so many different people that have all these different views, and they own guns and they shoot guns, and the one thing that keeps us all together, right, is the fact that we have this two-way right. And so, staying together, no matter what your political affiliation, what your background, your economic status, your sexual orientation, like, that's irrelevant at this point. Okay. The one thing that brings us together is the fact that we have a constitutional protected right to be able to defend ourselves and our families. And there's nothing the government can do about that. As much as they want to, they cannot. And so we have to stay focused. We have to stay up to date. We also have to stay upbeat, stay positive. And yeah, Kevin. So there's a couple sheriffs. The Lynn County sheriff is definitely a good sheriff. On paper, she was very well rehearsed when this thing all launched, and so I felt good about her. I haven't spoke with her directly, and I haven't seen anything lately, so I don't know 100% where she's at. I feel that she's going to protect the citizens of her county, but we have to understand a lot of this stuff. It's all politics. You have a lot of stuff going on, and some of these people are going to make decisions that you might not agree with because of they want to hold on to that position of power. And so that's where we have to say, okay, well, we're taking notes, right? You're gone. We're going to get an under sheriff. We're going to get somebody else that's going to fill that spot, that's going to represent us as Oregon gun owners and as constituents. Okay. So that's really, really important. Well, and that's the one thing here. Let me get it. Hopefully this, I'm waiting for this comment. That Scott, that's a great comment. It's not showing up on my thing yet. So I can't highlight it, but Scott, that's a really great comment. Okay. So there's separate branches of government. Okay. Separate. We have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have the judicial. Okay. The state police, technically, believe it or not, is going to answer to the executive branch, which is the governor. And typically what's going to happen is they are going to follow direct orders from the governor. Okay. That is dangerous. Okay. So something to think about. They are considered part of the executive branch. But that being said, they are not authorized under the Constitution. We're talking about law enforcement and stuff that has, long standing and long tradition. It's going to be a sheriff, and because those are elected of the people, for the people, and by the people. And so that's where, something that's really, really important to know there. And so, that's, I'm really, really thankful you guys tuned in. So, things that we want to focus on going forward is Monday. If we can get there, if we can be there on Monday, it's going to start at 9 a.m. Okay. It's in Burns. I put a map in there, and it's obviously from Eugene, where I'm at, it's about 6 hours. So it's a good drive. So depending on where you're at, it's going to be a good drive. It's going to start at 9 a.m. Okay. So I anticipate, the other side has a lot riding on this, so there might be people there. And so it might be a good idea to get there early. I plan on getting there at 8 a.m. And so the reason I'm going to get there at 8 a.m. is I want to meet up with people. I want to talk. I want to gather my thoughts for the day. I want to make sure I'm prepared, and I'm going to be in there, and I'm going to make sure I go through security with plenty of time. And then I'm going to make sure that I get a seat, and I'm gonna get a seat where I can watch everything and stay up to date, and make sure I can pass all this information on to you guys. And so as much as it's been a wild ride the last year with you guys, I'm looking forward to figuring out, some sort of, either closure, like at least know where I stand. It's a lot of, I don't know about you guys, but it's this up and down roller coaster where I don't know, when the shoe's going to fall, what's going to happen. And so, that's where I'm looking forward to some sort of closure. And I'm hoping that we get the ruling that we need, right? That's going to hold the TRO in place. Everything's going to stay the way it is. It's going to go on to the next court, which in this case, what's going to happen is if we win, they're automatically going to appeal this. And so if they appeal this, this is going to go to the Oregon State Supreme Court. The likelihood of us getting the ruling that we need there are probably going to be lower because of just the way the court is. The court is not gun friendly. Okay. That being said, once there, then we would. So we win in Harney. It goes to the Oregon State Supreme Court. We lose there. We're going to appeal that. That will go to the Ninth Circuit, where the other case is in federal court. And so, that's something where as long as we can keep this TRO in place, like we're good. Okay. And so, until this thing is going to make it all the way to the Supreme Court. It's that bad. And, obviously the story that I want you guys to share from Fox News saying that this is the worst gun control bill in the country, there's a lot of truth to that. And so we should be highlighting that to our neighbors and let them know that this is not what we should be doing. And this is not going to do anything to save. Absolutely, Scott. It's a good drive. I'm going to be coming from Washington. So I got to come a different route, which I've never taken before. And so I'm coming from Centralia. So I'm not going to get into Burns until 9 or 10 o'clock on Sunday night. And so, that's where Scott. Yeah, it is. I try to be careful with my words just because I don't want to be that guy, right? I don't want to be calling it a night circus because, ultimately you call it the night circus. I need the Ninth Circuit. That's what I need. Okay. So you guys call it whatever you like, but I need it because I need a win, So it's just part of the deal. I know you guys are frustrated. I get it. This is not fun, and so, I got somebody tuning in on YouTube, which is great. So, thank you so much for tuning in on YouTube. So this is on my YouTube channel. This is, my training channel. And so I don't have a lot of followers that are subscribers. So I appreciate you tuning in from YouTube. So that's awesome. So, I hope the information I give you guys, helps. That's the goal. Everything that I've done the last year, like with this journey that I've been on to bring everybody together here under one tent, in a way that we can fight more effectively. I hope it's worked. And I hope you guys have gotten better at I've seen growth in my people here. I've seen guys that know how to, they need to know how to navigate OLIS now. They know how to send emails. They know how to track all this stuff. Like, so that gives me great hope that, we can get this together. And so, and we just got to keep going. We just understand that they're not going to stop, and I thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. And so that's the thing is they're not going to stop, they're going to change their tactic. And so we're going to have to do something different. And so that's where we have to evolve. We have to change the way we interact and the things that we do. And that's why, like the stuff that I've done the last week or so, like with the suicide prevention is really, really important stuff is because it looks at data, right? You look at numbers and suicide, suicide is the highest rates of death in our society is suicide typically. And so, they often demonize the firearm because the firearm is the lethal means. And so a lot of these people that are pushing policy, especially the VA, the Oregon Health Authority, all these other groups, they are not gun people. And so that's why it's important for me to be in these meetings and teach these people, what the gun is and how it functions and to settle any kind of rumors and to give a voice to you guys in those rooms to make sure that they understand that, these guns, if you want to really truly save lives when it comes to suicide prevention, you have to interact with gun owners in an appropriate manner. That means you listen, you don't judge, right? So I'm doing, I'm doing some really, really important stuff to make sure that we have a voice, and I'm going to keep doing that. And it's just part of the day. And yeah, yeah, Robert, I can put a link in there. And it's just a small channel. It's my training channel. It's kind of more of a backup channel. I have a couple channels. One is for the Kids Safe Foundation, which it continues to grow, and I feel good about that. And then there's my one where I use for training and advocacy. And so I can put a link in there. You guys can check that out. And so, that's kind of the thing, is just education, education, education. That's the only thing that we're going to be able to stop this stuff, is to make sure the people that are making these policy decisions understand that their policy decisions are not going to have desired effect. And the reason I say that is, if they come out, very strongly against firearms, they're alienating part of their audience and their demographic, which is going to lead to actually increased rates of suicide. So it's going to increase the likelihood of somebody losing their life, because they're not going to be asking for help. And so, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and so it's really, really important is be self-aware, and just know there's people out there that care for you. I'm always available. I have resources available if you guys need any links to any kind of services. It's all anonymous. It's all free. And it's all to protect your privacy. And I know this is tough. This is a very tough time for all of us, because it's just the uncertainty, and I know it's hard. Obviously, the economy, troubles at home, substance abuse, all of this stuff, what's happening with Measure 114, that leads to where it affects our mental health. And so we have to be really conscious of that and aware of that. And so let's look at this. Hey, Christopher. So it's scheduled tentatively for 3.5, 4 days. I'll know more. We'll know more kind of how things go Monday and Tuesday, I would imagine. Depends on how long it takes for us to present our side, because we get to go first, because we're the plaintiffs. So that's awesome. So we get to present ourselves, and then then they get to then they go, and then they get to rebut. So I understand. The problem is without a voice in that room, those truth or facts that they don't know or don't care about, they don't get to listen to anyone else besides their peers, right? Their circle of influence. And so obviously those truth or facts become, the law of the land. And so while I get your understanding, and without having people that are gun people in these rooms, in these meetings, doing this important stuff behind the scenes, the likelihood of them ever learning about firearms to build better connections with the public to help write better policy will never happen. And so that's where I understand, that's all I'm getting at, is like, it's an echo chamber. It's their own echo chamber. And they understand that their echo chamber is not working because they do not have the credibility to get the buy-in from gun owners. And so that's why they need somebody like myself. And I'm not saying I'm endorsing them by any means. I'm going in there to teach them about semi-automatic rifles. I'm teaching them about hammer spurs. I'm teaching them about 1911s. I'm teaching about striker fired. I mean, I'm talking terminology instead of, clips, so that's kind of where I'm going. And brother, I completely understand it, man. I'm on your side. I'm on your side, and I'm here to help you. But I'm also helping myself, right? Because my rights are really the most important thing to me, right? And so everything that I do is to protect my rights, and I'm hoping to help protect your rights by doing the work that I'm doing. And so I am. I am. In certain circumstances, I do fail. There's been times, there's stories I can't tell you, like in Vegas. I can't tell you about this story. Because it was not a good one. I got it on video, but it was cool. But what happened afterwards was not cool. My diplomacy is definitely getting better. I'm trying. I have to get better. I have to, yeah, clips in my hair. Clips. Yeah. So our clips go in our hair or our M1 Garands, not our AR-15s. Okay. So please. No, I don't. And one thing about Chuck is like Chuck is not wrong. And I totally get it, but it's like, we have to try. Like I have to try. And that's where I have to try these, because like they're realizing that they're not getting the desired results because of the amount of pushback they're getting from veterans, because of they're not authentic, right? Because they don't know anything about gun. It's a gun culture. It's a culture thing. That's what I told them. I told them, like, this is like, we have a gun culture. You guys have to understand and accept that it's not going to change. There's 450 million guns in this country, 110 million law-abiding citizens. It's not going to change ever. So change your tactics. Okay. So that means you, instead of judging somebody for owning a firearm, and you don't talk about firearms, you talk about, okay, do you, you know what I mean? There's other things that we engage with in the conversation as opposed to alienate somebody that needs help, so that's, uh, goodness gracious, you guys. Clips or SKS is a great example. I brought that up as well. So there's a couple clips, Enfield, I believe, has a clip as well, so there's some rifles that do have it, obviously, but we're not going in general terms, we're not going to be talking clips. And that's where I wish we would do better and understand that. I see a lot of people that talk a clip. It's not really a clip. It's a magazine. Please use proper terminology. And I did, let's see this one. What is this one? You can do testimony. So I don't know who put this up here. Yeah, I mean, you could. The testimony is closed when it comes to Measure 114, and so this is going to be testimony from expert witnesses on our side. I believe they're limiting what the other side can present, because a lot of their stuff was all the smoke and mirrors type stuff, and no, it's cool. It's cool. We just professionalism, right? Professionalisms. So that's kind of where we're at. So Brian, this is a great comment. Absolutely. And so, and when I talk about this, is a war for information, right? And so, we lose when the other side paints us with a broad brush, right? And they do a really good job. They want to see us act emotionally. They want to see us react. They want us to they want to see what happened in New Mexico the other day with that protest, where everybody had rifles on their shoulders. They want to see that, but they want to see somebody get hurt so they can paint us and say, see, we told you they were extremists. We told you they're domestic terrorists. We told you we should be taking away their guns, and we should be using red flags to do so instead of due process rights. So there's a lot to the way we present ourselves to the other side. And so, that's my biggest thing with all of you guys, is I've been trying to change this, as much as I think there's a time for the come and take it type posture. I don't think this is the position. This isn't the time for that yet. I'm not ruling it out. I mean, that's why I put the protest in here, for kind of thoughts for you guys to just kind of conversate about it, is what would that look like? I mean, do we protest? Like, if we don't get the ruling that we need, do we have a call to arms and call to action where we protest this? So that's where I'm trying to figure out what we do. Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of friends and family and loved ones that are in gun stores, and this is the hardest part, is just to see. I shared someday Wyndham Weaponry. They're going out of business. I bought my first AR-15, and this is going to date me, in 1999. It was right before, I don't know if you guys remember Y2K. It was like a big thing, right? And so my first rifle was an AR-15. It was a Bushmaster AR-15, and it was, it didn't have a flash hider on it. It was just old school. It was during the assault weapons ban, so you had a fixed stock on it. I wish I still had that rifle, just kind of as a memory, right? And so it's a tough time. It's a tough time to be in the training industry, like what I'm doing. I do training, and so it's tough. The gun industry as a whole is really down right now, and I'm seeing that from my sponsors. I'm seeing that from connections I have around the country. I'm just there's a big and we're going into an election year. Okay, so typically election years, and that's what this cycle is election years. Typically they sell guns, and it's this kind of this ebb and this flow. Problem is the economy is so far down because of inflation, high gas prices, all this other stuff. I think it's going to be harder for the gun industry to kind of bounce back, which is kind of scary for me, like being a trainer and in a nonprofit. We depend on support from the industry, so it's going to be I'm kind of scared, to be honest with you, because I don't know what that's going to look like for us going forward. And we're all in this together. And so that's why really, really important is we support those small mom and pops. They're going to need our support more than the big box stores. Big box stores, they can spread that loss across state lines. They can spread, like, if a sportsman or whatever, if they take a hit in Oregon because of Measure 114, they can spread that, and they have enough power. They can diversify across state lines, like in Idaho. In these smaller shops that we have here in Oregon, they don't have that luxury. So this impacts them, definitely at a higher rate. And so that's why if we can support local, that I really encourage it. And so it's hard times with 100%, Todd. Just keep your head up. Keep your head up, man. Just know you're not alone. We're pulling for you, because we need FFLs. We need FFLs. We need people that are selling guns legally. That's what we need here in the state of Oregon. And you guys are providing a really important public service, because you're doing the background checks. You're making sure the people that are buying firearms are the ones that should be buying firearms. Okay. So you're stopping, straw purchases. Hopefully you're also preventing people that have any signs of mental health issues or drug abuse. You're preventing them from taking possession of a firearm. So you guys have a really, really important job to help safeguard the community. And so the fact that you guys are donated. Yeah, Scott, I didn't bring that up. I have a vested interest, unfortunately, as part of my deal. So, but that's kind of where we're at. So, hope this all makes sense. And yeah, absolutely. There's been a couple locally that have shuttered the doors. A lot of it is because they were done with Oregon. One of the shops locally, it just said they moved to a different state, and I don't know how they're doing, but that's really, really, I've seen people that are thinking about it, and there's a lot of people, with roots that they don't have that ability. Right. And so, you look at just the cost of everything. It's hard to do that. So, I appreciate your support, and I do it because, like, I want to win. At the end of the day, I want to win. I want all of us to win. I want all of us to look back and look at this last 18 months or so and say, oh, phew, let's not do that again. Let's not go through that again. So let's make sure we show up and vote. Let's make sure we have good candidates to vote for. There's a lot we can learn from this situation. And so, that's where, we have to, what we're seeing in New Mexico is a really, really important lesson for all of us, is if we can stand up together, we can do something. And that's all I've tried to do the last year with you guys. And I feel like we've made good progress, but there's so much work to be done, because they are not going to stop. And a meeting yesterday that I had, a brilliant comment that came from somebody. Okay. Give me 1 second, Brian. I'll get to that 1 second. And this person, okay, that I'm not gonna call him out by name, but he is not somebody that aligns with me politically. He's on the other side, but he's got a very, very important job. And so he's part of a Democratic gun caucus, right? And they have a Democratic gun caucus, believe it or not. And so, that being said, um, the legislature listens very closely to their caucus, and they're like the sounding board for the Oregon legislature. And sometimes they have their own agenda where they're not going to listen to this guy and his group, but he does a lot of work on our behalf, and he's not like you and I. And that's why when I see people that like attack Democrats and they attack liberals and stuff like that in the comments, like that drives me insane, because at the end of the day, this is not a left versus right issue. These people are on the same side as us, even though they don't align with us politically, because they have that two-way right, and that's where we have to do better. And so, yeah. So Kyle, yeah, I dealt with him yesterday, and that meeting that I had yesterday. Well, this lady, she was, she helped establish Gifford's gun law. And that's one of the bigger groups. They were instrumental in Measure 114. The language behind Measure 114 is the Giffords Law Center. And so anyway, so she'd been doing this for many, many years. I mean, literally, and her thing is she wanted to disarm people to protect kids, right? And because of co-parenting issues and stuff like that, and so that's something that really just drove me insane listening to her talk. But the fact of the matter is, our friend on the other side, he stood up, on our behalf, and said, this is not going to work. And you would, the way I speak, you would think the words that I'm saying to you now were coming out of his mouth. And I was like, and I sent him a message. I'm like, dude, you just totally saved this whole meeting. Thank you. Even though we're not friends, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum here. It's that voice and that experience and that representation that he has that totally put that person in check, and just totally took the meeting in a different direction, which I'm really, really thankful for, because I was really heated at that point. And that's where she does not like who like me, and that's fine, because I'm going to stand up for you guys. And so, and obviously this is all behind the scenes type stuff from that meeting yesterday. So let's talk about this, Brian. I 100%, and I believe it's definitely a war of attrition. It's a war of attrition from a funding standpoint as well, right? So look at what happened in federal court, where the state of Oregon is now piling on our side, trying to bankrupt us to keep our testimony from becoming part of that the appeal process. And so it's definitely a war of attrition. They're going to go after primers. They're going to go after the powders. They're going to go after the ability to make projectiles. They're going to try to ban lead bullets. There's all these things that they can do, as opposed to saying that you can't have that rifle. And so that's something where we have to, it's a full-time job, like watching all of this stuff and where it's at in different committees. And so, and I try to stay up to date as best I can, but there's a lot of stuff I just kind of I glaze over, because I look at it, it's not a fight this year. And so I'm kind of like, okay, I'll just put that on the back burner. I'm not going to focus that, because you guys only have a certain amount of bandwidth. I only have a certain amount of bandwidth. And so I'm not going to take up all of my bandwidth with worrying about something that could be 4 to 5 years down the line. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So. Yeah, and I this is a great comment, Martin. I appreciate this one, and so I think, and what he made a very, very powerful point to me is the fact that they want to ban every gun, okay, because they feel morally that they're doing the right thing. Okay, so this is coming from them, and like this is coming out of his mouth. This is him explaining the way the legislature works because of his inner workings with them. Is they want to ban every firearm. They want to take away every gun because they believe that they're doing the morally right thing to do. And so that's where we're never going to be in agreement, because they're not. They are, because they're thinking about this emotionally. They're not looking at the data. They're not looking at the facts. And so this is an emotionally based argument, and so it will fail, but it'll be successful if we don't get involved. And so, this is a really great comment, Martin. But in reality, like, that's what we're up against, and you can see that is that just happened in New Mexico. So, excuse me. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is we got to look at the big picture. The big picture is there's literally billions of dollars attached to gun control, and they make money off of gun control, and so that's why they all got their little hands in this, right? And all of us are busy going to work, paying our bills, taking care of our kids, buying our firearms, and just living our lives. We don't see the big picture where there's all this big tech money, there's all this other stuff that goes into this effect. And it's all designed to take away your ability to protect yourself, because they think the government can do better, and that's what they believe. They believe the government is going to be your savior, and that's not the case. And so, that's kind of something that we have to be mindful of. And so independence comes when we think for ourselves, and we can behave in a manner where we can protect ourselves. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I've gone a long time. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm here. I'm going to be on the road this weekend starting Friday. I'm going to be planning on coming into Burns Sunday night. I'll be ready Monday morning. If you guys are going to be there, please let me know. You can share the event. The event is open to the public outside of the group. So if you have people in that area, let them know. I don't think signs are going to be available or welcome in the courtroom. So, we got to be professional there. But I would love to see you guys there. I would like to show support for our attorney and let the judge know how important this is to us. And he's got a really important job. I feel that, he's a good man, and I feel that he'll do the right thing and understand that, like, this was not well thought out. And that's why I'm so glad that he ruled the way he did, where he's going to be not talking about rules. This should not ever been to this point if it wasn't for the attorney or the Secretary of State, excuse me. So, Scott, I'm trying to refresh that. Yeah, absolutely. I try to be as kind as I can to people, and even if I don't agree with them, but I got to be careful. I have a position that I'm in the community that I'm trying to uphold, and so there's a lot of power, a lot of weight that comes with that, and so I'm mindful of that, and so I'm hoping that you guys understand. Yeah, that's true. They are whatever we can make them up to be, right? This is not legal advice, by the way. This is just jokes between friends. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. So, I'll keep you guys up to date. I'll be doing updates, live. I'll do a live update from my hotel room, Monday night, just to kind of brief everybody kind of where we're at. I'll make sure there's a live stream as well. So I'll do everything I can to make sure you guys can stay in the loop and up to date, and just pray for our attorney, pray for the people that are going to be testifying on your behalf. Make sure that those words come out the way you need them to come out with, and hopefully they resonate with the judge, and hopefully we send a message and stop this insanity. So enough is enough. We've wasted enough resources on this already. So that's kind of where I'm at. So other than that, I will see whoever's going to be there. I will keep you guys up to date. I appreciate everybody that helped me share that class this morning with the Kids Safe Foundation. I really, really appreciate it. We've been really censored from social media, where it's affecting people seeing our classes and their ability to sign up, which is in turn making it harder for kids to be protected. And so I appreciate you guys helping me out with that. That really meant a lot. So I appreciate all the belief. So other than that, I'm going to get off here. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.